What's going on, Cowboys Nation? Today, we need to talk about two moves that could completely flip the future of the Dallas Cowboys. I'm not exaggerating. One involves a defensive nightmare that quarterbacks hate seeing across the line of scrimmage. The other involves one of the fastest, most explosive playmakers of this generation suddenly becoming available. And both conversations are happening right now. Okay, let's start with reality. After moving on from Micah Parsons, this defense collapsed. The numbers don't lie. Dallas dropped dramatically in pressure rate and finished near the bottom of the league in key defensive categories. We had only 2 players record more than 5 sacks last season. 2! That's not a contender. That's not a Super Bowl defense. Now, imagine this, a 5-time Pro Bowler, an all-pro caliber edge rusher, a relentless, high-motor defensive wrecking ball with nearly 70 career sacks and over 130 tackles for loss, a guy who doesn't take plays off, a guy who sets the tone, a guy who instantly changes protections the moment he steps on the field. There's a projected blockbuster trade scenario that would bring that kind of presence to Dallas, but it would cost us a lot. We're talking about premium draft capital. We're talking about major salary commitments. We're talking about pushing chips to the center of the table. Now here's where things get even more interesting. At the exact same time this defensive trade buzz is heating up, a former league-leading receiver, one of the most electric deep threats we've ever seen, has just hit the market. This is a player who put up over 3,500 receiving yards in just 2 seasons not long ago. A player who changes the geometry of the field. A player defenses have to account for on every single snap. But he's in his early 30s. He's coming off a devastating knee injury involving multiple ligaments, and any deal would likely be a short-term prove-it contract loaded with incentives. So now I have a question for you. Do you invest heavily in rebuilding the defensive identity of this team, or do you chase offensive fireworks and hope elite speed still wins in January? Because here's my honest opinion as a die-hard fan. We don't have a scoring problem. We have a closing problem. We couldn't put pressure consistently. We couldn't finish games. And in today's NFL, if you can't affect the quarterback, you're not lifting a Lombardi trophy. So this offseason feels different, feels aggressive. It feels like Jerry Jones might be preparing to make a seismic move, but which direction is the right one? Today, I'm breaking down the projected dream trade that could fix our biggest weakness, the real cost of bringing in an elite edge force, the gamble of adding a veteran speedster coming off major injury, and which move actually puts Dallas back into true Super Bowl contention. Before we dive in, hit that like button if you believe the Cowboys need to stop playing it safe, and subscribe to NFL Playbook Cowboys, but only if you're a real fan who truly believes we're reaching the Super Bowl next season with the right moves. All right, Cowboys Nation, let's talk about the move that could change everything. What if I told you the Dallas Cowboys could fix their biggest problem overnight? What if Jerry Jones is sitting there with 2 top 20 picks, a win-now offense, and a chance to land a 5-time Pro Bowler who lives in the backfield? I'm talking about a projected dream trade that would bring Maxx Crosby to the Dallas Cowboys. If that doesn't get your heart rate up, I don't know what will. Here's my dream trade proposal. According to projections from the Bleacher Report, Dallas could use one of its 2 top 20 first-round picks, number 12 or number 20, to start negotiations with the Las Vegas Raiders. And the prize? Maxx Crosby. Cowboys Nation, this isn't just a good player. This is a game wrecker.
Why Crosby changed everything? Let's talk about real production. In his career, Crosby has 110 games played, 439 total tackles, 133 tackles for loss, 69.5 sacks, 11 forced fumbles, and 29 pass deflections. He's posted 10-plus sacks in 3 of the last 4 seasons. That's consistency. That's dominant. Meanwhile, Dallas's pass rush last season, unreliable, inconsistent, non-threatening. Now imagine Crosby lining up next to Quinnen Williams, Kenny Clark. That's not just good. That's a defensive front offenses have to game plan around. But there is a big complication: money and health. Now let's not pretend this is easy. Crosby is due $30 million in 2026. That's serious money. He's also battled injury, played through an ankle injury in 2024 that requires surgery, and landed on IR late last season in a controversial move. But here's my take as a fan. Elite pass rushers cost money. If Dallas is serious about competing while this offense is still top 5 in scoring, you can't be scared to spend on a cornerstone defender. Why does this make sense right now? Let's look at the bigger picture. Even with defensive struggles, Dallas still had one of the top offenses in football, stayed competitive in multiple close games, and showed they're not rebuilding. They're reloading. This is not a 3-year project team. This is a team that needs one defensive identity piece. Maxx Crosby gives you leadership, motor, production, attitude, and honestly, that edge swagger Cowboys fans miss. Would you make the trade? So here's the question, Cowboys Nation. Would you give up a top 20 pick for Maxx Crosby, or would you rather build through the draft and stay patient? Because this move would be seismic. It would send a message to the league that Dallas isn't backing down from the Parsons trade. They're responding to it. Drop your answer in the comments. I want to hear your real opinion. At the end of the day, talent like Maxx Crosby doesn't become available often. If the price is right and Dallas can avoid giving up future first-rounders beyond 2026, this might be the bold move that finally stabilizes this defense. Cowboys Nation, imagine that defensive line under the lights at AT&T Stadium. That's how you get back into serious playoff contention. And then we have another one. The Miami Dolphins have just officially released Tyreek Hill. Yes, that Tyreek Hill, one of the most explosive receivers of this generation, suddenly available. And according to league sources, the Dallas Cowboys are at least exploring the possibility. Now let's talk about this, because this one is complicated. The end of an era in Miami. Tyreek Hill's time in Miami was electric. In his first 2 seasons with the Dolphins, 238 catches, 3,939 yards, 20 touchdowns. In 2023, he led the entire NFL in receiving yards. That's not good. That's elite. But the last 2 years, different story. Over the next stretch, 102 catches, 1,224 yards, 7 touchdowns, and then a devastating knee injury in Week 4 of 2025. That injury wasn't minor. We're talking knee dislocation, multiple ligament tears including the ACL, at age 31 going on 32. That matters. His mindset after the injury? Hill even hinted he wasn't sure about his future. He talked about wanting time with family, not knowing if he still wants to grind at that elite level, acknowledging how hard it is to stay on top. That's human. That's real. But now he's on the market. Dallas is watching what Dallas is offering and why it makes sense. Let's break down what we're hearing. Dallas isn't throwing $30 million per year like his old deal average. Instead, the Cowboys are reportedly considering a 1-year prove-it deal around $18 million annually. Heavy per-game bonuses, performance incentives, yards, touchdowns, guaranteed bump in year 2 if he hits goals. That's smart front office strategy. They're protecting themselves in case his knee isn't the same, the explosiveness doesn't fully return, or durability becomes a long-term concern. This isn't reckless spending, it's calculated risk. But here's my honest fan take. I love Tyreek Hill as a player. He's a game breaker, a nightmare matchup, a defensive coordinator's headache. But do the Cowboys need him? Last season, Dallas had one of the top scoring offenses in football. The offense wasn't the main issue. The defense was. Adding Hill would make headlines, but does it solve our biggest problem? No. So what is the big picture strategy? If this team was one wide receiver away from a Super Bowl, I'd say go for it. But this roster needs defensive help, needs pass rush stability, needs secondary depth. Spending major cap space on a luxury piece might not be the smartest move. So let me ask you, would you sign Tyreek Hill to a 1-year prove-it deal? Or should Dallas roll with its young core and invest resources on defense? Drop it in the comments. I want to hear real football takes, not just name recognition hype.